want to show you. It's the middle of the night, but the freeze dryer needs to be fed. All right, so this is how we do it. We pre-freeze everything. So these particular apples have been pre-frozen on them, but we have bags and bags and bags of pre-frozen, pre-sliced, prepared fruit. Ding it out. Now I know it doesn't look like I'm being careful, but I am being very careful. Whew. All right, welcome back to the homestead. It's the middle of the night. Well, not really, it's about 9:30. It seems a lot later. 9:30, and we're gonna come out to the greenhouse for a little midnight discussion under the stars, baby. Look at this. All right, I have a feeling that the algorithm is not gonna help me out much today with tonight's topic. So you guys just might have to be a little bit kind and like and share and subscribe to the channel, because tonight we're talking World War III and your freeze dryer. It's going to be a really cool video of two of my most important freeze dryer hacks are coming up at the end of the video. But first, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a discussion. Now remember, how coherent were you late last night? If it's not very coherent, then be easy on me. But I've got to lay it all out right now, coming up. All right, I thought I would come to you in a very pleasant environment. I'm right in the middle of my off-grid geothermal Wallapini greenhouse. So I'm literally underneath my bananas. Do you see those? Underneath my banana tree. So a very pleasant location, maybe for a little bit of an unpleasant discussion. Remember how I've been ending my videos the last few times, that if you're prepared, you shall not fear. And that if you take under your own control some prepping and some preparing for the day of wrath and the day of tribulations, then your anxiety about the current future, the current reality and the future will be less. So that's what this video is about, because I'm going to talk about my assessment of what's going on over in Israel. But at the end of it, I'm going to show you what I'm doing literally on a daily basis, on a nightly basis, which is freeze drying. I am more motivated now than ever to lay up and store any bit of my harvest. I'm motivated. I'm not doing it out of fear, but I'm definitely a little bit more vigilant, because if you're listening or watching Geopolitics, if your head is not literally in the sand, then you're aware that things are heating up. As of today, which I don't even know what today is, October 20 something, we're basically waiting for Israel to initiate their response to the terrorist attack on October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel. So there's obviously going to be a response. I think it's obviously going to be a big response. Most likely what's happening now is they're just beefing up their Iron Dome and the Scud and Patriot missiles. And it looks like that's what they're doing, because they're going to go in big and then they'll expect a response back. Well, I want to preface this discussion real quick with a scripture in Daniel, which talks about the abomination of desolation. My question to you is, the abomination of desolation already set up? And I think that it might be, and I'm going to explain at least the limited understanding that I have about that. Now, I'm no Avraham Gileadi. I'm no Michael Rush. I am definitely no Jonathan Kahn. I'm just a little peasant homesteader. But, in the LDS community at least, when the bombing on Israel happened on October 7th, it was very curious for a couple of reasons. And not too many people, even within the LDS community, picked up on it. But those that did are like ablaze about it. So the scripture in Daniel 11, or chapter 12, verse 11, it says, "And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, shall be 1,290 days." Now, if you rewind the clock back to March 26th of 2020, the whole world was in commotion because of COVID. Everything was happening and shutting down. Well, on March 26th, the LDS Church did something that's never happened before, and they shut down their temples globally. They were shut down. So in my limited, again, vernacular and understanding of scriptures, the daily sacrifice really being shut down and that of the temples was one and the same thing. So if you fast forward 1,290 days from the day that the daily sacrifice or the temples were shut down, right to that very day mentioned in Daniel with his numbers was October 7th of 2023 when Hamas attacked Israel. I think that is profound. Coincidence? Very much so, and very interesting. Now, the scripture says that when the daily sacrifice is taken away, that is when the abomination that maketh desolate is set up. It doesn't say that is the abomination of desolation. It's saying that it's set up. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Because I think that we go about our normal lives and we forget the effects on the global economy, on the national economy, on the economies of your states and your cities and communities, your small businesses, on your lives, on your homestead. We forget the effects, the ramifications of shutting all of this down in the name of that sickness back in 2020 and the long-term effects or the setup that had upon the globe. I want to tell you what I mean. Like, I'm just going to give you a couple of points. I was going through and I came up with several. I'm a banker, and so some of these are financial. But I promise, just stick with me. They're important and significant, especially to your life, not just mine. So the first thing I thought about is inflation. Because inflation is so high, they are raising interest rates at record levels. So the rising of the 30-year mortgage is faster than it's been in decades. And so right now we're at like a 20+ year high. We're over 8% as far as the national average on mortgages because we're trying to curb inflation. Why is this inflation here? Well, I would suggest that inflation is so rampant right now because of what we did in early 2020 when the abomination was set up. Because when we shut down the global economy, we didn't feel it. I mean, there was basically a digital breadline. All of this stimulus money that was being thrown out to every small business was being thrown out to families. We even got a break on paying our taxes. Remember that for half the year? So all of this money just was infused into the economy. I was a banker. I was making literally millions of dollars of PPP loans, payment protection program loans, to these small businesses who were forced to shut down. So when they were forced to shut down, so the government came to the rescue, and gave them all of this money in the form of these free, forgivable loans. Well, all of that money infused into the economy, and we had record amount of savings, record amount of money. Well, the velocity in the economy was pretty hot at that time. So what happened? People started spending and spending and spending. Some businesses, larger businesses, mind you, and some banks, lots of them, by the way, had record profits because of all of that stimulus that was thrown into the economy. Okay? Oh, wow, that got us past that crisis. Well, what did it do? It probably just kicked the can down the road to now, because all that money going into the system now means we are having to pay for it. We have to suck that money out of the system with high interest rates because inflation's out of control. The second thing is that the world saw this crazy, exorbitant amount of spending that America did. And so what did that do to the world's perception of our dollar? We use the dollar to not just save our economy, but we are infusing dollars into the central reserves of many other countries as well. Well, at what cost? If you're playing Monopoly and someone just sits there and prints money, it ruins the game. Like if the banker was just printing money and then giving it to themselves, how long are you going to play Monopoly with that person? Not very long. Well, guess what? That's how the world feels too. We are on the verge of losing our reserve status. That's maybe my third point, is that we have right now a geopolitical fall from grace. We have all of these countries that are no longer wanting to do business with us, including financial. So you had this impulse before with these BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now there's like 40 other countries that want to be a part of this BRIC alliance in the economy. Well, what that means is they want to have their own currency outside the dollar. That's just one of the ways that we are having this geopolitical fall from grace. Like if they stop using the dollar to trade in oil, then it's the equivalent of cutting up our nation's credit card. Because, by the way, we are using a credit card. I saw a report just the other day. It was something like we had, in just the last several months, we had accumulated over $3 trillion in deficit. I mean, that is a credit card. We don't have the money, so we're borrowing money. That is a massive problem. Threading the needle to your life, if America loses its reserve status, all of the ways that we used to have that financial strength and gravitas, we used to sanction Russia and say, hey, you are not going to go into Ukraine or we're going to sanction you. Well, you know what? We did that. And you know what Russia said? We don't need you. So immediately Russia started trading with China directly, ruble to the yuan. Oh, wow. Hey, no, we're America. We're gonna limit you, Russia, on your dollars, on our dollars, and it's gonna make your life tough. Well, Putin just went around the dollar. That's what I'm talking about. So the ways that America used to be able to police the world with our might. I mean, we are the greatest country that the world has ever seen. But maybe we've been spoiling some of that birthright, some of that privilege. What are the effects of that? As we start to fall from geopolitical grace, we know what the world looks like with American strength and stability. What does the world look like without it? See what I mean? I would mention another point with the elections. I don't want to be completely banned on my little channel here, but needless to say, because of the setup that occurred in 2020, we suddenly had all of these election rules that were thrown out the door. So we had record amounts, like the most explosive amount of new people on the voting registers, new people that had voted, and then the reported actual confirmable issues with that went down. So you lengthen or you expand the voter pool, and then you report that, oh, and by the way, with these record amount of people voting and mail-in voting and all the ballots that came in through these drop boxes in the middle of the night, our problems actually went down, even though we added hundreds of thousands of new people to voting registrations. Right. So maybe I'll stay off of that. Well, the other thing, another point, and I'm going to be very vague with this one for obvious reasons, but many people were mandating shots, medical shots for people to maintain their employment. The U.S. government did that. They did that with the military. And so what did that do overall? Well, for one, with the U.S. government having that mandate, look at your Army enrollments. So at a time when geopolitics is really maybe at the worst it's been in my lifetime. I know we've been to Iraq, we had the Gulf War, we had Afghanistan. I know that, but like right now, just with the way that things are lining up, it seems like we're going into something more significant than anything I've seen in my lifetime. And we are at record lows with military enrollments. Now, was the mandate a part of that? I think that it was. I know a lot of the people who join the military, those alpha males, they don't like to be forced to do anything. And I know when you join the Army, you're required to do certain things anyway, but you're not required to do experimental things and all of a sudden without your buy-in. And that's what occurred, and it affected our enrollments. Well, a lot of the things that are happening as a result, side effects are still rolling out. Parliaments across the globe are holding these fact-finding hearings, emergency hearings. People are banning these medicines, finding out of different things that are in them that we weren't told about. Guys, that's crazy. So all of that was set up, 3 years ago, and we're just starting to learn what was in them now? That's crazy. And maybe just one more point, because my rant is getting a little long and we got to go into the freeze dryer. What about free speech? I remember just not too long ago, there was a certain laptop. I hope that's backwards so they don't pick it up. There was a certain laptop that was reported by the Washington Post right before the election. And you know what happened? Instead of the world exploding with this knowledge about this scandalous laptop, Twitter at the time, they banned the Washington Post from their platform. And it was shortly after that that different politicians, some with beautiful, amazing red hair, certain politicians and podcasters and influencers across the globe were being banned because they had opinions. Or in the case of the Washington Post, they said that there was this laptop and that was it really was owned by a guy named Hunter, whose last name is very familiar or similar to the current president's last name. Hunter, And they said that there was this laptop with all this crazy stuff on it, and they were banned for misinformation. Well, guess what? We now know that that was actually his laptop. So they were deplatformed before an election with these reports and these scandals for something that they were told was false reporting, which happened to be not false, but was true. Now, when you lose ground on anything dealing with your First Amendment, do you get it back easily? I mean, we're so arrogant to think, oh, well, good thing we didn't know at the time, and we just had to, suppress their rights and whatever. Our forefathers bled and died to give us a constitution. They bled and died and then put for their very First Amendment, that of free speech. Well, if we no longer have free speech, or if we have restricted free speech, or if we have restricted freedom of the press, what does that do to America? Well, I'll tell you one thing that does is it doesn't get certain amounts of information out to the public before an election, a wildly secure election with a lot of people who are new people on the voter rolls that have never been on the voter rolls before. We didn't have any corruption with the election rolls, but you can't deny that freedom of information was restricted, information that later came out to be true. Guys, there was so much that was set up in early 2020, of which we are now only beginning to see the side effects. I would argue we haven't even started. For example, with Israel. I mean, why doesn't Israel just go and take care of business with Iran? I mean, Iran's threatening to build, their first nuclear weapon. And I mean, if they do, that would just be like literally the end of the Israeli state altogether. And why don't they just go take care of that? Well, I would argue that the reason they haven't up to this point is because they have respect for their allies, us, America. Well, as we become less and less and less significant or believable or influential, I mean, at some point, if Israel doesn't take some of our moderation with some of their immediate, political foes in the area, well, then maybe Israel is going to be unshackled. And maybe they should. I'm just saying that we can no longer exert our influence to a lot of our allies because, well, look what we did in Afghanistan. Remember how we treated those allies. We have set ourselves up, or it has been set up, that there's going to be many desolations on geopolitical, financial, election, medical fronts. There's all these things that are playing out, little seeds of destruction that started back in March of 2020. Think about it for a second. Put in the comments if you have any other thoughts about that. Okay, I know this got a little religious. I know it got a little political, but I want to thread the needle for you real quick. A lot of crap is going on, and you need to be aware of it. Don't be scared. Be prepared. For me, I'm going to go right in the house right now, and I'm going to go play with the freeze dryer. I'm going to go show you 2 hacks that I've used to make that freeze dryer more efficient. And yes, I am suggesting that you need to double your efforts. Just keep doing it in a very methodical, constant process. I'm not saying you have to have a freeze dryer. If you do, you might want to try these hacks. But if there's some things you can do in your houses and your homestead to be a little bit more prepared with food, shelter, water, security, barterability, all the things that Lynette Zang always would tell you to do, then you need to be doing it. The time is now. What are you waiting for? All right, let's go inside. All right, I want to show you. It's the middle of the night, but the freeze dryer needs to be fed. All right, so this is how we do it. We pre-freeze everything. So these particular apples have been pre-frozen on them, but we have bags and bags and bags of pre-frozen, pre-sliced, prepared fruit. So these 2 are ready for the freeze dryer. These other ones, all that I have to do is open it up, put them on, and then I'll go put it in the freeze dryer, and I'll be able to skip that whole pre-freeze stage. So this is just, in my opinion, the way to do it, because we have more fruit than our freeze dryer can handle, even though I do it this efficient way. So I just wanted to show you how easy that is. And the good thing about it is, if you want to prep your apples, you can just go and prep till your heart is content. Use any cookie sheet on earth that you can to pre-freeze, and then you spend another day to bag them once they're frozen, just to eliminate the, getting the freezer burn on them. And then, I mean, we probably have like 30 or 40 bags like this that are just simply ready for the freeze dryer. So my freeze dryer is downstairs defrosting. I'm going to put these on thick because they're so thin. Oh, failed. Over here, we have more apples, more peaches, more peaches, more peaches, more peaches, nectarines, ice cream. We're not freeze drying that. But if you get the idea, by having all of this pre-frozen, pre-prepared, it can be 11 o'clock at night, which it is now, and I can easily change my freeze dryer and keep that thing freeze drying for me, baby. That's what we're talking about. You can maximize, you can double the output of that very expensive freeze dryer with this little tiny hack. All right. All right. Now that we're down inside of our cluttered freeze dryer room, I'm going to show you hack number 2 of making this thing do work for you so much more efficiently. So hack number 1, everything is pre-prepared, pre-frozen, bagged up, so we can do that. The other thing is the freeze dry cycle is annoying. If you're impatient like I am, maybe for you dudes, or some of you women as well, sorry, instead of waiting for that whole thing to defrost, I turn the defrost off, and then I pull this bad boy out. Okay, so pull this out, unhook it, set her down. Now, I'm sure that Henry D. Freeze Dryer would be cringing right now what I'm going to do. It probably is going to violate some term or whatever, but I'm going to carefully come in here, Miss Kenna. See all that ice? Now, I can wait 2 hours for that, or I can be the impatient person that I am, and I can just ding it out. Now, I know it doesn't look like I'm being careful, but I am being very careful. Whew. To prove that I'm being careful, I've got about a 5-ounce hammer here. You know, it couldn't hurt anything, including a freeze dryer. I don't have any dings in my freeze dryer sidewall. All right, Kenna, then you gotta back up over there, because I just get the ice and I throw it to my drain. Okay, so It's a little messy, a little cumbersome, but what that does is it saves me 2 hours. I like the hack. What do you think? Mention in the comments. Not for everybody, but it's entertainment value regardless. All right. Okay, look at that. One-handed. Not very coordinated with one hand, but it is one-handed. Pre-frozen. Skip the defrost cycle. Put this bad boy in. Come up here to my freeze dryer, which is named Let's Go Brandon. Push start. It says it's going to cool the vacuum chamber. It's still pretty cold in there because you got pre-frozen fruit and the chamber is de-iced, but it's still pretty cold. Make sure your drain is closed, and I will have to wait for 15 minutes for that cycle. 15 minutes for that cycle right there. But I didn't have to wait 2 hours. Okay, so it is time. Push continue. It's now saying it's freezing, but basically it's going to realize very quickly that everything is already pre-froze. And so I just saved me 2 hours. All right, I hope you like the 2 hacks. Again, not everyone's gonna like hack number 2, which is demolishing the iceberg inside of your freeze dryer, but I like it because it saves me time and I can go to bed. And meanwhile, while I sleep, I am freeze drying. All right? Well, again, I might need your help on this video for you to like it and subscribe it and to comment below, because I guarantee you the things that we talked about early on are not going to be algo friendly. So can you do that little piece for me? I think people need to hear the message. I think you need to be aware of what's going on over the pond, and that you need to be getting more deliberate with what you're doing right here in your own homes and your own homesteads. All right, like and subscribe. We'll see you next video. Oh, by the way, the next video, my oldest boy's coming home off of his mission. I'm gonna give you a reaction video of him seeing the greenhouse for the first time. That's right, he has been away for 2 years, but in the span of that 2 years, we built a greenhouse and we've had it performing for 1 year without electricity, growing bananas, passion fruit, avocado, lemons and lime, and all the boring stuff right here in Manti, and he's never seen it. So we're gonna show you his reaction and give you an update of the greenhouse next. All right, see you next time.